All right, so today coming at you guys with something a little bit different. We have the Snead family with us today, both Nate and Jim, his father. So we're going to kind of talk about, the lead up into Power 5 Division I baseball, as well as some of the things that helped them get there, and then some different pieces of perspectives of the recruiting process and so on and so forth through their perspective. So first thing is go through a little bit of background. Obviously, everyone's watching this pretty much already knows me, so I'll let Nate take it off with that one.
So I'm a sophomore at the University of Tennessee, and I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Class of 2022, graduate of high school. Kind of a little bit about me. I was kind of a late bloomer. Kind of started really getting the deep dive into baseball around my sophomore, junior year of high school, kind of where it took off, and feeling my way through the waters there, kind of making sure I wanted to continue my journey with the sport and kind of go full out with it, and just kind of took the bull by the horns there, kind of went from there, and then kind of just got in the gym every day, kind of just started the grind and kind of feeling the way out and just trying to live out the dream of professional baseball.
Obviously Nate started, normal trajectory, little league. We kind of started our own like homemade travel ball team. And then I went to one of the bigger area travel ball clubs for high school, and just kind of took it to the next level, had some good opportunities and took advantage of it. Met Carter sophomore winter, fall of sophomore year, so 2020 COVID year.
Yep.
So from there it took off, a little extra focus, some motivation, some weight, and trust.
Yeah. No, I think that's big. I think it's been what, 3.5 years now working together, which has been an absolute blast. Day one, what was it, 165-pound Nate?
Yeah.
Oh no, it was 153 pound Nate.
Yeah, 153, just under 6 foot.
83 miles an hour, and now we're here. So next thing I kind of wanted to talk about was just kind of what the current baseball landscape looks like from both of you guys, both from the athlete's perspective as well as the parents' perspective. So kind of, what's on the agenda for the next year and a half or so.
Yeah, so I think now that I'm in college, kind of away from home, so now you really all you got to do is just play baseball. You're at school, kind of just going to school, make sure grades are right, and then you're just playing baseball, practicing with the team, getting your lifts in. That's kind of all there is really to do. Coming from last year at Wichita State, kind of a big change from American baseball to the SEC now. You got a lot bigger, stronger, harder throwing, ball hitting farther. Everything's completely different here at Tennessee. So I think the grind is a little bit more challenging, and you kind of want to get your head down a little bit more, and you want to compete with these bigger guys. We got our main guy in the rotation, Drew Beam. Everyone's trying to go after him, and I feel like having competition like that all around is really good for everyone, because then you just bring a winning culture throughout. But kind of in the winter phase right now, kind of going home, training a little bit, and then going back to school, starting our lifting. Then we're off to Dallas, Arlington for our first getaway. We're playing in the Ranger Stadium in Arlington, and we get a little 3-game set there, and then we go up through our season, hopefully making it back to Omaha, hopefully bring home a ring. So kind of like that will be a lot of fun.
What do we have planned for summer, and then kind of looking forward to the next year? Kind of what are the goals there?
Yeah, summer is kind of after the season, hoping the season goes well, hoping you hit pitch limit, hoping you get all your goals then, because in summer you kind of want to keep it laid back, kind of just go throughout your time and get better. You don't want to blow yourself out. You don't want to stay healthy is the big summer goal, and then you want to come back in the fall better than you were last year, kind of dominate the fall and kind of redo everything. College is just a repetition, kind of like the fall is the main grind, and then you gotta go home for the winter and make sure you're on the grind there. You don't have anybody, your teammates, and you don't really have anyone to do it with, so it's kind of even harder to think about. But I think it's a lot of fun, and it brings a lot of energy back to the clubhouse when we all get back and we all get working together. I think it's a lot more fun because then you're all back together.
Jimbo, what's the landscape look like for you guys as parents over the next year and a half? I know we've had some fun conversations about this as well.
Yeah. The hard part is just looking at the schedule. It's what, basically, it's almost 6 full months of baseball per season. For us, Nate's sister plays volleyball. So there's, early season time off from baseball to support her. And then from there, it's just, we talked last night a little bit, we, booked 2 trips already. Just looking at logistics and driving and, location. Hard part being a pitcher dad is you don't know when he's gonna pitch, so that's a big part of the mix too. So it's you just plan as far out as you can and react when the schedule comes out or when the lineups come out. And hopefully we'll get to see a lot of innings this year.
I think that's also something that really doesn't get talked about as much, like from the parents' perspective. If you have a child that goes off to play a high level Division I sport, you want to be there, and obviously some families can and can't do that.
Yeah.
But just the reality of trying to make it to 4 or 5 series out of the whole year, the travel, the logistics, everything, the cost that goes into that. I mean, I know we originally started talking about planning for spring like 4 months ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And it really does become something where you're planning out months, if not almost an entire year in advance, to make sure that everything is kind of set for those things, because it does end up being an incredible cost if you are able to go out and see and play and stuff like that. And I know that it just really isn't something that's talked about very often.
No, it's not, and it's I don't know, until you do it, I don't know that there's no cheat sheet either. It's like your work schedule. Fortunately, we both have really good flexible jobs that we can do that. We've worked on the road in Fall World Series, we worked on the road. So it's just so different because it's like, what do? It's for us, Knoxville is 10-hour drive, and then Alabama's 13, and then Wake's 13, 14. So it's like, depending on what the schedule is, you kind of prioritize those trips. Like Florida's on the schedule, just rule that out right away. Orlando's expensive, it's flying, it's extra days, and so we just, things like that, you automatically just take off the list, and then you prioritize, get up early on Friday, you can get the game time, and then avoid a hotel or avoid, certain things. So yeah, it's a lot of planning and organizing and just figuring out what gets sacrificed, right? You prioritize like anything else. Like Nate prioritizes so much of training time and focus in it's giving up on kid stuff, right? So we do that at a different level, right? It's the experience for us, the support, and then also just financially, careers. It's big picture.
Yeah. And I think that's just something that isn't talked about very often. So I love to get that perspective out there, because, I can't remember the last time I talked to a parent where they had an idea of what their life was going to look like after their child becomes a high level Division I athlete as well.
Yeah.
And it's completely different than most people would really expect. And it truly, after going through it with you guys for the last 2 years and, multiple other athletes, I'm pretty sure there's some baseball parents out there that could run UPS at this point, because the logistics are just incredible. So,
well, and it's too, I mean, he's had a pretty good experience of, what the plan was from high school, and that didn't work out with the coaching change, having a really good year in Wichita, having a coaching change. So it's not only you kind of get in a rhythm or what you think you're going to do, and then, there's curveballs, right? It's baseball, talk baseball, right? Do a stupid cliche, but you have to react and adjust. And, it's, opportunities got to this point, you just got to take advantage.
yeah. All right, Nate, what were the some of the things that were the biggest changes that really changed like the trajectory of your career? What were the big milestones for you? What were the changes that you made to your lifestyle, whatever that may be.
Yeah, so I think in high school, going into my like sophomore year, you're kind of still like growing, you're maturing, like everything is still moving. So like you can't really be set in stone yet, and you kind of have to adapt for when it comes. And I feel like as you matured and then like as you grew up, like I felt like the grind was a lot easier, but then also like it was a lot harder because then as you grow older, you're getting taller, so then you have to eat more, you got to put on more weight. And I think that like the biggest changes I think were just like the adaptation of like gaining weight and then getting in the gym more. And I think just building yourself bigger, and then along comes like the milestones, like saw our sophomore winter hitting 90 off the mound for the first time. I mean, it was like as hard as possible and go balls to the wall, kind of try and hit it for that first time. And then from there, it just kind of went up. And I felt like after that milestone, I feel like you just get that spark of motivation where like, okay, you hit 90, okay, 95 next, or 93 is next. Like you never want the goal like too small. I think you set bigger goals. I think they're harder to achieve, which makes you then work harder. So then I think the bigger goal is kind of like 95 then, and then coming into spring, I ended up getting up to 93, and like the same thing with 90. I mean, you're going balls to the wall, and you're just always itching for that PR. I mean, all the work you've done throughout the weeks and the days off, or you don't even want the days off, and but your coach tells you you need them, so take them. I think that was like the biggest thing for me. And then I think just trusting others as well. But then I also think like you're still doing the grind and you want to stick to the program. Don't do anything extra. The program's there for you. I think programs are meant to be laid out for future. And I think that was like the biggest thing I learned was like it's gonna take time and it's gonna be slow, but I think trusting it was the biggest part. Because then as time went on, I had a pretty decent summer my junior year, and then I started to talk to some schools and started to actually get into the recruiting process, which was pretty cool because my dream was to play college baseball. So having the option to talk to coaches was just a blessing there. So then going from there, you just kind of continue to work hard. You see these schools reaching out, and they're like, okay, these are schools, but I want the better schools, right? You just want to keep getting, you want your goals to be bigger and better. So then I think just getting in the gym every day again and just kind of working for that goal each day, I think it's just a mental thing. And I think you got to really want it. And I feel after that, you kind of just get the goals just start coming easier, because then you start to hit like me, like in the winter time. I mean, I hit one day, we were pulling down, I hit 105.6, and then Carter goes, you get one off the mound, and then 96.6, and the next thing you know, I got MLB scouts on my phone, and then 2 weeks later, I got them in the gym watching pens for me. So then kind of the big boy schools start reaching out, and you gotta really focus on finding the right fit for school, and then also keeping your head in school, like high school wise, and then also trying to find a home in the future. So I feel like the biggest things with that were just kind of time management, kind of balancing your time, kind of making sure you just get everything done and take your time with it, because it's a very, very stressful process, and I think it's really worth it though. And it just takes time, really.
That patience piece was a hard one for us for the first year, let me
Yeah.
tell you.
And trust was the bigger one,
Trust is big.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
him and I have the typical father-son athlete relationship.
Right.
Yeah, and
Because, right, I mean, when you're younger, you don't know. You can hear what to do, but it wasn't necessarily doing it to get the results. Once you started hitting the results, I was like, wow, this does work, and I can trust the people that know, or trust the people that have been there. And that, I think that was the biggest motivator,
Mhm.
you know, probably, putting on the weight early. That first winter was what, 20 pounds by Christmas. And then just the fact of, like who you said, you set the big goals and you chipped away at them, and so far so good.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember it pretty vividly, just that even the day before you threw 105 and 96. you were supposed to have a max effort day, and I told you no,
Yeah. Yep.
based off how you felt, and you were pissed.
Yeah, I wasn't bad.
Right. But just that little extra recovery. And I think it had something to do with like it was like your counter movement jumps or something that day were just way too low. And I was like, okay, readiness levels, like this probably won't go very well today. And then the next day, all of a sudden, it all comes together. And I think that's something that gets lost a lot too, is just having a professional in your corner to help you work around those obstacles. Because as we all know, right? High school athlete, college athlete, it's just go time 24/7.
Right.
Everyone just wants to go as fast as they possibly can. And it is very hard to stay patient with that.
Yeah, it was just such a fun winter because it was, whatever, 88, 89, 89, 9, 89, 9, 89, 9, right? So yeah, it was, once we got chiseled away, then it was less of, I don't think it wasn't, you didn't have that at that point, was like, oh, I have to go to the gym. Now it's like, I'm going to the gym, right?
Mhm.
Enjoyable. You look forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get there, you go in and it was across the board. It was right.
Yeah.
It was 20-yard, 30-yard. It was,
Yeah.
what was your jump?
Jumps, kind of movements, and yeah.
Just everything was just progressing at, a really good of rate of success. And then it actually, honestly, I mean, once he did it, it helped the whole high school team
Mhm.
because everybody was motivated.
Yeah. I mean, I can kind of remember that as, once he started to see results, then all of the other high school kids wanted to be
Yeah.
in the gym with us as well.
Yeah.
So I think that one was really fun. So that kind of leads directly into our next topic, actually. Nate, as a current baseball player, what would be your advice to a 15, 16-year-old high school baseball player that has aspirations similar to yours on development, right? Obviously, we kind of touched on just work ethic in general, but what were the big things that really changed everything from you as far as developmental stuff goes?
Yeah, I think the big thing was just patience. I think, like I said, I mean, the plan is for long term. Everything is set out for the future. And I think once you kind of understand that, like, I mean, like I said, I got in the gym sophomore year. That's kind of when I started. And it's kind of a late bloom for most people because especially nowadays, kids going on like 6th grade, 7th grade, I mean, they're crazy athletic, just crazy in general. And I think that in high school, I think it's the best time to just start putting your head down and kind of just worrying about like if baseball is really a true dream, I think going after it, I think is really important. And I feel like just the biggest piece is just like the patience part. I think the patience is like the biggest thing, and then just kind of following the guidelines and following the program because everyone around wants to help. So like everything they say, like you might think like, oh, it's dumb, but then you try it for a month and then boom, you're up 10 pounds. And then what does that 10 pounds do? That gives you 3 miles an hour, 4 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour. I mean, you name it, the list could go on. I mean, but I think the biggest advice was like listening to people, opening like their mind and opening like your heart to like different aspects of like training and like the way you go about life. And then I think like don't close any doors. I think that was a big piece because like growing up, everybody has their own like their dream school, they want to play for this organization, they want to go there. And then like in reality, like I didn't get a call from my dream school, which one of them was Tennessee, until my sophomore summer or my freshman summer when I entered the transfer portal. So like you kind of have to be patient with it, and you got to understand like if you don't go to your dream school, man, like you're gonna find the next best fit for you, and then you never know, that school may be way better than your dream school. You might have a lot more fun. You might be better. Like maybe you go to Omaha and get a ring. Like I mean it's pretty cool. But
Yeah.
I think that's like the biggest piece is just trusting everyone and then kind of listening to everyone, open your mind. and then don't close any doors. Like I said, like
Mhm.
the recruiting process is very stressful. And then going through the portal, I mean, day one, I mean, I probably had 50 some schools reach out within like 6 hours. And personally, I had already gone through the recruiting process twice already. And then this one was even bigger because coming off college year, it's a lot more eye appealing than a freshman or a high school season. So you have a lot better talent. You're facing a lot better people like at Wichita. My biggest games were in our midweeks when we played our Power Five competition, like OU, Oklahoma State, K-State, and KU. Like those teams you do good around. Then they have the bigger connections, like you enter the transfer portal there. Those were like the 4 schools that reached out first because they already saw what you did and you kind of saw how you were around your teammates and everything like that. So I think that's like the biggest piece is just kind of just leaving all doors open at all times.
So,
I think I'll jump in on that a little bit, just back to the high school level. I think it's the focus and commitment.
Oh, yeah.
And many kids were multi-sport kids, which is hard. It's all year round. Or it could be all year round. So I think the biggest thing was it was a huge commitment to get better, get stronger. And I think the results were obviously just, it's because of the work, not necessarily. It didn't just show up because you went to the gym 6 days a week, right? You put in the work. But I mean, that work also, I mean, in your case, Carter knew you played volleyball too, so your volleyball got better. Yeah. You're stronger, you were jumping higher, so it's just the whole process. You trust the process, but then you need somebody that's gonna specifically design stuff for you for what you're trying to do, right? So I think that's part of it. We got lucky with Carter.
yeah, no, okay, so kind of talking about that, like, when do you think, from your guys' perspective, obviously I have mine, but when do you think is a good time for someone to start to dive into personalized development where you're getting on strength programs and stuff like that? And then when do you think is a good time, given the nature of the beast and it growing, is a good time to begin to specialize in one sport?
Yeah, I think, I know we had this conversation the other day at dinner. We were talking about kind of when to like really bear down and kind of figure out what you want to do, like sport wise. And I think a good time to start is kind of like when I did personally, because if you start too young, then you kind of like you become more like, I wouldn't say injury prone, but like your body's not even close to being developed. You're still like, if you're like a 5th grader at 5'1" and you're gonna be 6'4" by your senior year, like your body's gonna be completely different. So I think like starting kind of later, like your sophomore year, maybe even like early junior year, kind of when your body's starting to like really mature and like you're starting to grow, and then like you can start to put on weight. And I think all that is like a big part of like the plan as well, because your program still, I think mine still is expecting me to grow more. But I think starting early is like, it could be a key, but it couldn't hurt you. But I mean, in the end, I think it's really up to you on when you want to start, because then the earlier start you get, you could think in your mind that you're getting ahead of everyone else. It's kind of the way I looked at it coming in sophomore year, kind of just wanting to be the best guy wherever I was. So I kind of started early and wanted that mentality wherever I went. So I think starting early is a good thing, but not too early, but not too late as well.
So kind of on that maturity level, whenever you feel like you're mature enough to stick with it,
yeah, correct.
type deal.
Correct.
Okay. And when would you tell, given the landscape right now of, what we're seeing is, if you want to go Power 5 out of high school as a pitcher, more than likely you're going to be touching 95 at least.
Right.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's going to start to have an effect on when kids should start to specialize in sport?
I think nowadays it definitely can. I think looking at some of the kids in high school, kind of committing really early in their like freshman, possibly 8th grade years. And I think stuff like that is kind of cool to see, because then it helps you motivate yourself, because then you see there's already guys ahead of you, so you want to catch them. And I feel like I just feel like once you figure out what you kind of want to do with like sport wise, I think knowing that if the results start coming, kind of like how I was, if the results just kept coming and you just kept getting better and better and better, and the numbers kept coming, I think then you kind of realize like, hey, like I kind of have a shot in this, so then you kind of pursue and you kind of want to be the best you possibly can be. I mean, your goal, like, we have at Tennessee, we have like Spencer Strider is like a guy that's in there like every day in the off season. And I talked to him like a month ago, and he was saying like how he's still young for the game. I mean, he's only like 25, and he was just could have been a Cy Young candidate this year, and then just kind of had a really good year the past couple of years. And he was kind of talking about like mentality wise and like when you want to like start playing. And he's only 24 years old, and he's got like a whole another 12, 15 seasons left to play. And he always says like he wants to be the greatest to ever step on the mound, and he wants to. Every day he gets in the gym, he always tells himself he showed us this little journal he has. He's like, be the best today, be better than tomorrow, like be better than yourself last week, last month, last year. You like always want to just grow. And I think like specializing in one sport can really narrow down your like mentality wise, because then you're not thinking about, oh, I gotta go to the gym today, but then I also have practice for basketball tomorrow, and then you have school homework and all that. So I think like kind of around the same time, kind of like I said, if you kind of see the numbers pop up and you're kind of seeing the results, I think you need to just like tell yourself like, man, if I really want to do this, then I'm gonna go balls to the wall and kind of just go for it.
Just kind of lean in at some point.
Yeah.
What's your perspective on that? I think this one's gonna be interesting.
No, I think you touched on it. I think it's more of, I forget the word you used,
Maturity?
maturity and commitment is probably the biggest ones, because everything has a cost,
Mhm.
right? Travel ball has a cost, gyms have a cost. Sometimes you have two gyms, right? It depends on what you're specializing in. So we have family friends that they've been all in since the kid could walk, right? And they're just, it's legit. So you do have those athletes that are just all in at an early age, and you just know. Others take a little bit longer to figure it out. Again, I touched on earlier, I think it was a really good situation with you that we were able to keep him as a multi-sport athlete.
Mhm.
That's what he enjoyed. Early on, running cross country and track, it was hard to keep weight on. So that was kind of counterintuitive to what we were doing with baseball, was to trying to get weight on. So when we shifted the gears, or he shifted gears kind of after COVID, and really focused like, okay, yeah, baseball is the priority. If I can stay healthy, we'll do volleyball.
Yeah.
So I don't know that there's a good answer. I think, it's a athlete by athlete kind of thing. But I think as a parent, you see it when you don't have to tell them to go to practice, or the arguments about getting to practice or doing extra or more, when the athlete's driving, let's go play catch, or let's go do this, or let's go do that. Like the signs are there, the maturity and the effort and the want. And then it just gets back to, again, what we talked about before. When you see success, that's just the catalyst
Just keep
to
riding
keep
it.
going.
One thing to like touch on, I think like in high school, I think being a multi-sport athlete is kind of important, especially like for a baseball guy. If you're playing high school ball, usually it's in the springtime now. So you're playing in the spring, and then you go into the summer and you're playing your summer ball team. So then you're playing baseball for, let's say, 8 months nonstop, because you have practices leading up to games right before the season. And then I think in the fall, kind of why I played volleyball is in the fall, is you kind of got away from the sport a little bit. But then while you were away from the sport, you were also training. But then while playing volleyball, your body was still moving and you were still getting in condition. I mean, volleyball, being an outside hitter, you kind of, the way you're jumping up, hitting the ball is kind of the same way you're throwing the ball. So you're kind of still getting those repetitions in your arm. Kind of just, and honestly, the way I looked at it was like, the harder I hit the ball, the faster my arm moved, and then that would translate on the mound later. Whereas like take your time with it, but also having a good schedule to work with. There's some times where like you might have to miss practice or something like I did to go and train because baseball is number one. So you're gonna have to make some sacrifices between that too. So
Yeah, I think that's something that really doesn't get talked about is,
Yeah.
you know,
Everything.
if I'm in a sport for school,
Yeah.
but it's not my number one sport, am I willing to miss it
mhm,
to do something for my number one sport? And then the other aspect of it is like, is this coach even going to be willing to do
I
so?
was just gonna say,
And if they're not, do I even play anyways?
right.
that's the maturity and being able to have that conversation with this, with that second sport, right?
Yep.
Um. Again, we got lucky with our community,
mhm,
coaches have been very supportive.
Yeah.
That, it's like, yeah, I mean, we understand your, priority or your number one goal,
Yeah.
but this is also the team.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's ends up being a big
There
balance.
wasn't a lot of sacrifice, but
Right.
I think some sports are a little bit more demanding maybe than volleyball, but.
Yeah.
It's all, if you wanna do it, you're gonna do it, and you
Yeah.
have to have that motivation and the drive to get it done.
mhm. I think when I think back to that, I think I always go back to the day that I got invited to Jupiter when I got fortunate enough to play with the Padres scout team. And I going up to coach, be like, hey, like I got this really cool opportunity to play in front of like hundreds, if not thousands of scouts in Jupiter, Florida. And I was like, hey, like I'm gonna have to miss like a week and there might be a chance I miss 3 games. He's like, man, I totally understand that. Like, we understand baseball's number one. Like, we want you to go be great. So we like no hesitation, like, hey, just go do it. And I remember going to Jupiter and kind of still keeping up with the team, making sure like everything was well, making sure we were still winning, kind of all that. And then after Jupiter coming back, we're on a plane ride home and they kind of got a late start to the games. We had a doubleheader. We got off the plane and kind of rushed back home to grab stuff or grab my like uniform and changed and then went to my volleyball game and I still made it. And it was just really cool to see because there's the trust in coaches and kind of like, hey, like you're here. So like, you good? Like they asked a bunch of questions like, hey, like you want to play? Like you can, like you say no if you don't want to. So it's kind of like having that trust and communication with coaches, I think is huge.
Mhm. All right, kind of last topic that I wanted to let the people in for is, Jim, as a parent, what would be your advice to other parents of young high school baseball players with very high aspirations?
Yikes. We're probably almost out of battery for that one. I don't know, that's a hard one to narrow down on. I think it's the gotta wanna kind of thing. It's, for us, it was kind of lightning struck at the right time.
Mhm.
So it was probably more reactionary for us than it was preparedness. It's
Mhm.
kind of a way to say it. He'd always been one of the better baseball guys. There's always, someone always had his number. There's always a target to keep growing and pushing. But there was, he always had confidence, played multiple levels, played multiple age groups, multiple years. And so it was there, but just taking that, when that lightning struck and just kind of got rolling,
Mhm.
then I was just kind of like, okay, as long as, you're putting in the work and results aside, right? I mean, sophomore year travel ball wasn't the greatest. It was a battle. But it was just don't give up and communicate with the coaches and have those tough conversations, and things like that. So it was, I mean, outside of just the baseball aspect of it, the maturity and the growth across him as a person has been the biggest thing.
Mhm.
So it's, I don't even know what the question was. I think it's just that if you have to be paying attention and listening and kind of see the opportunities and see what that could go.
Mhm.
Now, we've talked, if he was coming by you and standing around in the social hour and not putting in the work, probably wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
So
I think that's very true.
it's, you know, managing expectations and just putting in the effort, I think, and it's fortunately, again, with the flexibility with work and things like that, you know, he's been able to really focus and put in the work and, you know, work with you and have a travel ball team and do a lot of things that can put yourself on the map, right? To be seen, you have to be there. So it's like, you know, I think scout team was a good example. Like you somehow got on somebody's radar, you got the invite, you performed there. And then that was just kind of the every little, you know, stepping stone to get to the next levels. And then, you know, fortunate or unfortunate, I think two complete coaching changes.
Yeah.
Really,
It's-
yeah, that really changes things.
Exhausting.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go through a recruiting process 3 times.
Yeah.
Well,
But it's,
hey, that's kind of perfect, right? So you've been through the recruiting process 3 times. It's been different all 3 times.
100%.
Obviously
It's-
you've gotten really good at it because, you know, I can follow along with the notes and everything on all the phone calls and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So, what would be your advice to parents as far as how they can handle the stress of the recruiting process?
Spring cheese.
He said it, I didn't have to. Write that one down. I think just organization. And what we did, like one of the most basic things, and I don't even think he liked it at first, is we were very scripted. We had, depending on where we were in the process, we started with 5 questions. We asked every single coach or pitching coach or head coach, whatever it was specifically. So we could very methodically review those answers as, you know, like we asked you the same question as we asked them, and you can kind of narrow things out.
Generate pros concepts.
Right, and then that helps kind of sort things out, you know, and not even to the level of, am I a starter or am I a bullpen guy? It is, what is your program? What does your off season look like? Do you encourage summer ball or things like that, where it was
Fall list versus in-season list.
Yes.
Yeah.
kind of, you know, some of the programs aren't a 12-month system, right? Like
Mhm.
go home for summer and have fun and, you know, go do rec tennis or whatever you want to do, right? And there's others. I mean, obviously SEC baseball is legit, right? That, you know, you've had 2 weeks off since 4th of July.
Yeah, if that, honestly.
So those are the things you get into, is like, what is the commitment, right?
Mhm.
And at that point, even the early talks with JUCOs, you wanted a program that's elevating. Obviously, Iowa Western had a very strong track record of winning, so that's huge, right? Everybody wants to win.
Mhm.
But then it's, what is the development? And then you can, of course, I'm ridiculous with research. I would look at guys that left X school, whatever. What did they do 2 years later? What did they do 5 years later? Are they still playing? Did they flame out? And just kind of see the results of each program. And then obviously cost, travel, I think the easy things to think about, like, oh, that's expensive, or that's. In Utah, we told Utah, thanks, no thanks, right? Like, just the exponential amount of travel and time, it just, you know.
Didn't make sense.
That was one of the things we filtered out early.
Right.
Other ones we didn't filter out, because we said, like, Arizona was a long time dream school for him.
Right.
I'm like, if that's it, that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. So there's some things that we took out of the decision making that said, you have to make your decision, which is also hard, right? Because if you do pick somebody that's 20 hours away versus 6 hours away, that changes some logistics across the board.
Uh-huh.
So I think the biggest thing is research. I mean, you've seen my notes, like.
Yes, I have.
It's the program, obviously, I think. The other side of it is you have to have college and work in mind too.
Mhm.
It can't just be baseball.
Mhm.
Like, you can go to the greatest baseball school on the planet, but if they don't have anything that interests you for a career, for the backup plan or the primary plan, right? That was something we talked about a lot early, is you can't just be all in on baseball. You have to have a career out of this. So that, that ruled out some good schools too. There were some schools that just didn't offer what he was looking for, so.
Yeah.
But I don't know, just research, organization, and then just try and get everything as black and white as you can. And then the gray ones will kind of weed themselves out, whether it's the travel or whether it's, Big 12, Big 10, SEC, whatever, that kind of didn't matter in the end for us. It was more the opportunity, the culture. Having coaches, different levels of coaches involved in the process was huge. When you get to that point where you start meeting and talking to people, the involvement at different levels of the coaching hierarchy really shows the interest and dedication. And it's so far for both schools now, we've seen that play out with relationships and effort and communication. Like the coaches that are involved early are going to continue to be involved, and that's very fortunate, knock on wood, that we've made two really good decisions. So you can add on that.
Kind of real quick about for a parent, I think growing up, you kind of learn to be an adult, obviously, because kind of are one now. But I think as a parent, I think the biggest thing is sacrificing, because as say your kid goes on and playing travel ball, if you're playing travel ball, your summers are gone. If you wanted to travel, your traveling is wherever your kid goes. I think stuff like that is very sacrificial. And I think my parents sacrificed a lot when I started playing, and I think it was really important, because it was just especially being at college, you don't get to see your parents a lot. So then when you got to see them during the season, it was kind of nice. So then they didn't they know that that they are thinking about you. So I feel it's very important, and some people take it for granted, I think, because parents are the biggest part in this. But I think for a parent is just honestly just being open-minded, because you may not be going to Florida for 5 days on the beach, but you're going to watch your kid possibly live out his dream and just watch his success grow. And I think that's the biggest thing my dad liked, was just kind of seeing how I grew each weekend, and then especially through college, kind of just seeing me perform, and being grateful last year to being able to play on TV. You kind of know that they're watching, and you kind of know everybody's watching, especially Carter and all my family watching and friends watching. I think that's just the most important part.
Well, thank you very much for you guys' time. Hopefully the people watching this can get some good information out of it. Learning about what your guys' process has been things that you guys have learned throughout everything. Because, typically when a parent or an athlete is looking for advice on either their career or recruiting or something along those lines, they're just going to their travel ball coach or something like that. And very rarely get the opportunity to actually hear the information straight from someone who's been through it and been through it recently.
And more than once.
Had definitely more than once. And I think that really adds some different flavors to it, allow people to get some different perspectives as well on just the insanity that it truly can become.
Well, I think that gets to too, when, working with you early on, the opportunity with Ben Heller and some of the guys that, I forget one of the guys that Mitch. Just guys that had experience where, he's been able to just sit down and talk with the guys. And then, my coach Belfry was another guy. They would literally sit like this at a desk and just small talk, and just how was the grind? And, just kind of yeah, it sucks. It's a ton of work. This is your life. Yeah. This is what you choose. Yeah. So I think he's been fortunate and very lucky to have some good people around us. Even our travel coaches at home, being ex-college players and coaches, you got a lot of good insight early. So I think across the board, I've probably said it a bunch of times, it's taking advantage of the opportunity is gotta be a little bit lucky. And then just definitely putting in the work and having a good attitude and just kicking ass.
That luck piece is a lot bigger than most people think too.
Yeah,
Luck piece is great.
yeah,
Well, thank you guys very much.
yeah. Thanks, Carter.